Welcome back to the Burning Branches podcast. This is something special.
There was a season where your fire was kind of growing, and then it dwindled, and then you recognized it was something you had to tend to, right?
My season when my fire first really started, in my walk, was out of desperation. It was like out of, in like a way, survival too.
And you're talking about specifically your fire for God and that.
Yeah. My need was heavy because I remember first accepting Christ in my life. He literally, the thing I was going through, he like snatched me out of a grave kind of thing. And it's like, so for him to do that and me to recognize that, it kept my fire going for quite some time. That's what I leaned on, which is, we're still leaning on him, obviously. Like, that was my, I would say, like, introduction. And then once things started to kind of, I trusted in him and he, was taking care of me, things started to really turn around. And I kind of like kicked my feet up for a little while, and it was like, I didn't say this, but it's almost like, all right, God, I'm good, I'm cool, I'm chilling, go to church every Sunday. But then I was like, something spoke to me, and it was like, I think my heart started speaking more like, I need you. I miss that. I miss you.
Wow.
I miss the
intimacy.
Yeah, the intimacy. That's what I was looking for, and it's starting to build in a different way now, because now I would say my season, and I'm still getting to understand where I'm at more, but something that brought the fire back more recently was I started focusing on taking action and how can I serve. Something spoke to me really. It was just like focusing on being a servant. And it has really brought a different type of fire back. So
wow. So if I could conceptualize it this way, it's almost like you went through like the initial planting season where you got the seed and you were flourishing in that seed, and then that went to this other season where it was like fallow ground and it was just rest, and then finally that rest kind of, that time period was ended, and it's almost like you got a sense of like, okay, it's time to break ground. It's time to do something new with this seed that you got.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Let's talk a little bit about tending the fire, right? And understanding that transition of season, because I think that's something that we've all gone through, where it's just like you had that fire and then you didn't know how to tend it, or you didn't necessarily understand the value of tending it. Because when I think of fire, I think of like, man, you need to put some fuel on that fire, right? So what's the fuel? Kenny actually said this. It was almost like there's a change. There's a what was the word? Potential energy turning into kinetic energy, right? And so you need something with potential energy and to turn that into kinetic energy, right? And so if you could take some fuel and you could take some of that and you could turn that into the fire, right? If you could harness that fuel, what are some different avenues that you found that you've been able to kind of amplify that part of your walk?
Simply just getting in my word, praying, like a lot of the stuff that's right in front of me, fellowship, really, that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Sticking to the basics, right? Like athletes, sure, Michael Jordan and many other great athletes, like sticking to the basics. If you don't have a foundation, what do you have?
That is true.
You could do all the tricks, and so that's what I'm been focusing on.
I love how like God takes our desperation sometimes for Him and puts us into another season where we understand the innate relationship that we need with Him, right? Like, say, I understand that. I've alluded to this this story in the Bible, the woman with the issue of blood, right? I think if she was desperate, right, for her healing and for her miracle, but through that desperation is how God activated her faith in a very extreme way. And after that faith was activated, now she's what? Virtue leaves God to her. Now she's in the place where she understands what a relationship with Jesus Christ is, because a relationship in the form of touching His Him. And so once God's moved you from desperation, what typically happens is like He builds that relationship between you and Himself. But you have to allow yourself for that to happen. The man at the pool of Bethesda, for 30 years, I don't know if it's 30 or 38 years, right? He's been by the pool for 38 years, and the lack of discernment of time is what he really lacked in that sense, right? Because for 38 years, you can discern at what moment that the angel is going to come to stir up the what? To stir up the water. And I think it's just so important that all of us understand what times we're in and the urgencies of the times that we're in and understand that entire process. Because if not, we're going to spend 4 years is going to turn 8. 8 years is going to turn 12. 12 years is going to, because we are just recycling time because we have a lack of the understanding of the season that we're in. You know, like it's like we have to learn that, okay, now I have so much fire for God, right? And then how can I translate this fire to something that is consistent and something that's going to last? Because typically we just have that nice little spike and then just flat lines. Typically. So just going back to the basics like you're talking about and making it last. Because once you stick to the basics, you have a good foundation. That's just my thought on that in that regard.
I like that a lot. I like that thought too. That sparked a thought in me. And I remember one thing that God revealed to me that just absolutely changed my conception of how to live life was in the Psalm where Moses writes, he says, Lord, teach us to number our days.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
And it's like the actual understanding and the meaning of that. And hey, credit to Jonathan Cahn. You know, I read his book out there and the Book of Mysteries. This is not a plug. This is just what I was reading at the time that revealed it to me. It was valuable. And I read it and I was just like, oh, teaching you to number your days doesn't mean to build a calendar. It means to almost build an itinerary or to appoint a day for a reason, right? To make each day have meaning and significance. What are you numbering that day for? What are you appointing on that day? And it made me kind of begin to think like critically of like, well, how am I appointing my day? What purpose are these days? Or am I letting God appoint that day and give us some meaning, right? And so when you do that and you fall into this natural kind of cyclical thing, this nature where you can either lie fallow and let life happen around you, or you can and almost take the prerogative and you can there was a word you used just a moment off air,
proactive.
Proactive. That's the word. I like that word, proactive.
That makes me think about now when I get that fire going, it's like I want to spread it. And then it's like I get in these moments I'm just doing stuff and I'm not aware of exactly where to spread that fire, you know what I mean? Like to use that energy. So it's interesting because I had just about a week ago, I ran into a guy and he started talking about God, and then he caught me in my fire moment, and we were just bouncing, feeding off each other. I was feeding off a lot of information and word he was giving me and referring me to. He started throwing me books. I mean, it was just, it was great. But there was a lot of times where, not just with him, but when I was in that moment, trying to spread the fire, if you will, like, where I think I was just kind of wasting some of that energy on some stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, but it was the first time I was aware of this, and it's like, so now thinking back on it makes me want to, okay, how do I seize that moment? Like, how do I get the best out of it?
Yeah.
Squeeze the juice out of it and get the best out of those.
Wow. I think we're going to have to wrap it up for today. We thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Burning Branches podcast. Don't forget, visit our YouTube page. Check out some of the content we got on there. Leave a like, subscribe.
And don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts as well.
Find us on Spotify at The Burning Branches. And check out our Facebook page. Interact. Leave a comment.